Hi, everybody. Welcome to my live stream. This is the inaugural session of my live stream. I'm Ted Cook, um, author of Single Fathers, Real Men, a book that will be soon coming out, released probably on ebook first. I'd like to tell you a little about myself. I'm Ted Cook. I lived swag a few years ago. It was actually a e-commerce promotion vlog, and it was meant to promote my e-commerce site. But we evolve. Different things have happened. Excuse my animals in the background. Got a bird, and you may hear a dog soon. But it's the kids' pets. They're a little bit active tonight. Maybe because they see all this light in the room, and their little lamp is on. So we'll kill that noise a little bit, hopefully. Yeah. Diet down. We won't be on here long tonight. It's an inaugural session. But what we will strive to do, this is actually a blog that will be dedicated to single fathers, actually primarily focused on custodial fathers, and like myself. I recently became a custodial father. I don't know if that's something totally to brag about. It's unique in our culture, especially for ethnic minority like myself, to become a single father with custody rights, full custody rights. Usually, that's not because of something that's so great that I've done. It usually happens as a result of something that the mother hasn't done, or in the rare case where the mother totally says, hey, you can have my child, I'm done, for whatever reason. Usually the reasons aren't the greatest. It just happens. But for most of us fathers, it's a good thing, considering I was paying child support for 4 or 5 years there, and I no longer pay. But I'm not vindictive, so as of this point, I've chosen not to enforce the rules of child support on her. But of course, just like the women, if she gives me problems, I can always come at any point between now and the age 18. My oldest is 7, my youngest is 5. So as long as she plays ball and does better in what she's supposed to do in regards to the children, hey, I'll be okay for now, financially. You'll see the big picture, because most men are like, hell no, get her. She wouldn't give you any slack. That's absolutely 100% the truth. We all know this. We've seen it, been there, done that. Have the trophy, actually. It's a long story, as most of these cases are. And we'll just get started to a degree, because I think you need to know the background and why this channel will be valid. Lately, I've been watching Kevin Samuels. Kevin, as you know, a lot of people will call him, based on what they've seen of him, a metrosexual, or they don't know anything about the man. He regards himself as a high value man, because he just has a high income, and he's built a pretty good life for himself. Has a huge YouTube channel with over 1 million subscribers. thousands of watchers to his video. So I said, well, my first video, including his name, might help my future viewership, because the topics that I'll talk about are really not biting off his topics, but they're related because it deals with the social atmosphere that we have right now in the world when it comes to dating, relationships, marriage, children, the whole 9 yards. So he has topics that are very relatable to what this channel will be about. And this channel is ultimately here to inform, help men that are struggling. You know, I'm 50 years old. Yeah, I have 2 young children, 5 and 7, that I had by a 32-year-old lady. And a few years back, when I was in my late 40s, actually almost early 40s, when I met her. So there's not much of a biological clock for men, but you know, there's a clock that says, okay, hey, based on where you are in life and what you want out of life, you might want to have kids really before 40, and definitely no later than 45, because you want to be here for them. You want to be in relatively good health to get them at least to age 30. And that's considering them, being considerate of the children and what they need out of a father, out of parents. Okay. If you're not here for them, it's a problem. My mother died at 37, and I still feel like she died way too soon. My father's still alive, but I didn't meet him till she died. Actually, she died when I was 33. Okay. But at any rate, this channel is about helping fathers have the confidence and the wherewithal to stand up and be men when it comes to your children. You really need to be men. Pay your child support if that's where you are in the game. Be concerned with supporting your children, but don't let these women run all over you. Because if you let them run all over you, it'll be a major problem. Whether you're living with them, I recommend, or married, or whether you literally are on your own, struggling or doing well, and still able to sustain network for your kids, a system of support. What I'm going to talk about is the things that you need to consider before ever trying to get custody. This should be in the back of your head, your mind at all time, from the day the child is born, and you're not married. This is for single men, people who didn't marry when they found out their girlfriend or significant other was pregnant for whatever reason, and for those who didn't intend to get married per se as a result of the pregnancy. So what you need to realize is, if you're placed on child support, you need to, there is a window you can beg the court to start as of, if you've been in the mother and the child's life, especially if they're living with you prior to being on child support, you should beg the court at that point to start the child support as of day and admonish all the previous time period. and get her to agree with it. She has to agree with that. If she agrees to that, then there'll be no back child support, even if child support is started 2 years in, a year in, whatever. And you need to prove, always keep proof that your receipts of anything that you purchased, any other activities toward the child, like being there for birth, buying diapers, sitting with your child, keeping him the days, the times, the hours, whatever, a total package. So if a year later you end up in child support court, you can say, I haven't been a deadbeat. Okay, pretty common sense, but we need to know exactly in detail how much we need to prove. Even if you have pictures, if you have, I know a man who would enter into the calendar every time he kept the child, how many hours, when he picked them up, when he dropped them off, all of it to the minute. He was very meticulous in keeping a track record. I didn't quite do that, even though I was told by lawyers. We lived together. She was kind of an abusive woman. Actually, she was a very abusive woman. But we'll get into that later, because I don't want to appear to be the victim, but men have been victimized, and that's part of what we're going to talk about when I get into the Kevin Samuel blog part of the video, because he talked about the fact that women can be very abusive, verbally usually, and to the point of they try to incite violence from men from time to time, not in every case. So don't call in or comment talking about this dude complaining about women, he don't like women. Ooh. No, I'm just saying what my experience in this particular situation, based on the topic we're talking about, that made me a single father ultimately. There was some abusive situations going on, and I was told by legal professionals to put a hidden camera, video, audio, record her in action. The things she would do, the things she would say, to try to make me violent toward her, which I never did, because I never intended to be violent, which is another point. If you're in a strange situation with the mother of your child, you must always approach it from the standpoint of, at some point in the future, I may become the custodial parent of my child. So if you're going to be the custodial parent of your child, even if it's 5-10 years down the road, every interaction must be under control, disciplined interaction, no matter what she's saying to you, no matter how she's treating you, even if she's physically abusive to a point. Even if she's physically abusive, you must consider self-control at all times. I was living with her. I would wake up, she would cuss me out. The child would come in wanting something to eat, something to drink early in the morning he's a 3-year-old. Dad, I want juice. I got off at midnight. It's 5-6 o'clock in the morning every day. She's been at the house, or should have been, most of the day with the children after I went to work. And she acted like it was killing her to be here from 3 or 4 o'clock to midnight. Of course, the kids would sleep, usually, not all times, by midnight. And I would come in, try to get some sleep, 5-6 o'clock every day, not some days, every day. She was waking me up. The child came in wanting juice. She wouldn't get up. She wouldn't make breakfast. She was forcing me to get up, because if I didn't, he'd be standing there thirsty. Ask your father. Nasty, crazy, deranged attitude. And, I'm the only one working. She's living with me and I'm paying child support. It's a long story the way this chick entered my life, ended up having children, and all the way up to the point where I gained custody. So, the stories I tell about her will not be false. They're actually very true. And, you know, not a good look for women. But, back to Kevin Samuels. He says when women and others in the IPMOR community said they should be held way more accountable. I've talked to DHS professionals, and maybe in the future we'll have some of them or former DHS people, child services people, chime in on experiences they've had by similar women. And no, there's very little in the system to punish them unless they go way out on the deep end to the point where someone ends up in court and her actions are exposed in a big way in court. And that's what I did. I pre-planned this because she was hiding a lot from birth about another relationship she had going on. The fact that she was trying to use me as some sort of free sperm donor, but yet after the fact put me on child support while she was in another kind of relationship trying to have a baby, which, they botched that and they picked the wrong dude because I wasn't going. You tell me I got a child out there. I want to know him. I want to be involved. I want to be his father because I didn't know my father till I was 33, till my mother died. So I'm not going to be that dude. I'm not the older guy, a little older than her, that already had kids. No, I didn't. So that would have been my firstborn, and it was. And I need to be in his life. Now, I'm not saying I've always had the perfect attitude toward children, else I probably would have had them earlier and could have, should have. But hey, once they're here, yeah, didn't matter. Even earlier in my life, I would have been the same attitude. I need to be involved with my child. So they just have to be born. So we went down this path year after year after year with total utter disdain and disrespect of me. Oh, she did some pretty terrible things while living in my house. And it culminated in her sleeping with other men until she got pregnant with twins. That's when I took her to court. Enough was enough. You're not going to bring some other man's twins in my house and it wasn't mine because I had ceased having sex with her and she was going out sleeping with everybody that she could as often as she could. There were 3 potential baby daddies and she didn't know who it could have been as of the single week that she had slept with these guys. So she got these babies. She thought she was going to bring them to me. I was going to be some duck simp and just raise 4 kids just because she chose to go out and do this thing. Nope, total disrespect. You broke the rules of the game. Another thing Kevin Samuels talked about, the institution of marriage is a business relationship. It's a contract more than anything. And the old school people knew how to control and run an adult business. The man was going and out cheating. There are rules to the game. You don't let the woman, your wife, significant other, find out. And you don't let the community find out so she can be embarrassed or your family be embarrassed about it. You handle your business. You keep your business under wraps. And if you can't do that, you don't need to be a cheater or someone that's going out having relations with people and letting the world know. But anyway, so that applies whether you're male or female when you're living with someone. Now, if you're totally single, living on your own, hey, whatever. But if you've got someone that's significant, you got children, you got a household, you've got a whole life built around each other, and you're going out sleeping around, and you're reckless with it, that's breaking all the rules. You gotta go. But when you go, drop them kids off with me. And it's not that simple. Her going out sleeping with other people, it's not going to give you automatic custody of the kids. That's not viewed as disrespectful or illegal toward the kids. She did other things. These men or this D or whatever that had her dropping the kids off with me for months at a time, and she'd leave and go out of town, come back, think she could just pick up kids and keep it moving and keep my check, keep my money. You're leaving and dropping the kids off with me. But meanwhile, you took money that you would have spent on food and things here with you, which is my money, tune to $600 a month, and would have been more if she had her way. But she wasn't doing things to be on her feet, to do things that she needed to do for herself, like have a place to stay, have transportation of her own that wasn't mine. Yeah, she wasn't doing any of that. She wasn't being an adult. She just wanted to live off a freaking $600 a month child support and try to get that raised if she could figure out how to get out here and have somewhere to stay for free, which she couldn't do, of course. And the dude she was messing with didn't have anywhere to stay either, which made no sense. If you're going to do the thing, upgrade. Don't do basically worse for yourself. But karma's a beast. Ended up having twins. So on top of, she smoked weed, which is illegal here in Tennessee. She walked in the court high. Hey, you can't make this shit up. So all that played to my advantage. Once I figured out she kept doing that, she kept disrespecting the court in ways I was telling her she was disrespecting me. It was over for her. Then she still, during a 6-month process of court, didn't have a place to stay, didn't have a job. Deadbeat mother. Oh, I punished her. She got held accountable for her actions. Women rarely ever do. That's why my story is very important for the manosphere out here. For men to hear, you can be empowered. You just have to be smart about it. You have to know the rules. I went to the law library here in Memphis, Tennessee, looked up all the state laws on custody matters. I think there's 12 or 13 ways that you have to act in order to be a fit parent and to retain custody of your child. And they'll go through all 13, 14 maybe laws. And I'll look that up and we'll have a video specifically on that as it relates to Tennessee law, but I'm not a lawyer. But you can look up anything in the book and read the law for yourself. The lawyer read that. The judge read that. There's points that she missed throughout the debate. Also, because her actions were so erratic that it had to be some mental problems associated with them. So I brought that up and told them to give her a mental evaluation, which she didn't do because she was afraid the place that was on there. She had already been there for her own private mental evaluation, and she didn't keep going. So she quit taking meds and all of this, and it became a problem. And she didn't want to go back. for them to pull the records or do anything like that. So she missed out on that. She didn't complete that portion. She didn't have her own place to stay. So no, there was no way at the end of the court that she could retain custody of her kids. No way. Very evident. They gave it to me, and also asked me if I wanted her to have supervised or unsupervised visitation. Unsupervised, she was still staying in my house or in and out. Unsupervised would have just been like, okay, I have custody, but she's still here in the way, and she would have still been here trying to run things, intervene in my household, and them babies would have still been here when they were born. So I, smart enough, and like I said, I had done legal research. So legally, she couldn't stay here if I said supervised, because you have to be supervised at all times, and you can't go to sleep, or I couldn't go to sleep and leave her here, sleep or otherwise all night long. You can't go to sleep with the child around the kids. So she had to go. She had to be gone at night. Had to get up out of here, which meant she had to leave, period. So by the time she had those twins, she was basically gone when she found the baby daddy, and they moved in together and happily ever after. There was a point where she was spending my child support because, of course, it takes a year or two. If they don't do it right in court, which is another thing I will tutor you guys on, mentor you guys on. If you don't get the court order drafted properly, then it's hell getting your child support stopped and reversed and the case closed, so you can get your money back and you can not have it taken out of your check, your paycheck, which is where I am now. I got a nice chunk of change refund for the time from I was in the court for about 6 months, because she got it for about 4 or 5 months, which pissed me off. I'll never get that money back. But she kept getting it. She was spending it on hotel fees for her, the new baby daddy, and the new babies. So, yeah, that stung, because I kept fighting the child support to try to get my case stopped. But they didn't put a court order in when they shifted the custody, which is another thing. You must realize that you have rights as soon as you start to pay child support. You have rights to go and file a case in the custody and visitation court, which is separate from the child support judge and legal system. It's a separate level. So once you pay child support, that gives you right to see your child a lot more, because you must realize, as a non-custodial parent who's not married to the custodial parent, you have probably less than 30%. You have very few rights if you're not on the birth certificate from the beginning of birth, even though you know it's yours or whatever. But as a married person to the woman, it's automatic 50-50. Both of y'all from birth have 50% custody rights of the child. And there's no child support if you're living together. Needed from either party, because it's viewed that you both are equally responsible in taking care of the child. That's why when you get divorced, he who files first has the majority position. So if it's obvious you're getting divorced, the men file first, because the stats out here, as according to Kevin Samuels, who's done excellent research and used other folks' research, I hear, but the research he's found shows that women file first, because they also know that if you file first, and as a married person, he who filed first gets more leverage in the custody arrangements with the kid and the home and the other assets. So if you file first, you're in the majority position, and she has to counter to try to get some access to those possessions, including the child and child support and all of that. So if it's going down to two, file first. I filed the court, so she had to defend herself, which was hard to do with everything negative she had going on. So things went my way once I proved I was telling the truth in my original claim. Um, you know, and it took a long time to get to the point where I felt like I could go into court and win. And I had to put up with a whole lot to get to that position. Um, at this point, men, you just have to be strong in the game and you have to know the rules and the nuances. But when you're the non custodial, you have to build up your rights. Once you start paying child support, which is why many people say once the baby born, put yourself on child support. I don't know if I totally agree with that, but hey, if you end up on child support, once you end up on child support, you have immediate rights to see your child. Not necessarily 50-50, but you got the basic rights to see your child. And they're going to test you to see if you can uphold with keeping your child every other weekend, even from a baby, coming up with babysitters if you work, family members, whatever, a house with your own crib for them, or bedroom, or apartment. You got to jump on your feet and hurry up to it, because if you can prove that you've been a stand-up dude and capable of providing for your child, even if it's with your mother's help or whoever, and spending that kind of quality time, it's like disability benefits for the military. You can eventually get it increased over time. And the more you get it increased, and the more you show up with the court as often as possible from day one, asking for more custody, asking for more visitation, you will possibly get it up to 50% if you can handle 50%. If you have everything, that includes clothes, ability to feed the child when they're there, transportation to get them to and from daycares and schools, doctors, ability to take them to the doctor, being familiar with their doctor, and everything else that they need. If they're getting some public assist, some WIC appointments, all that stuff, you have to be capable and show proficiency in doing some of that. By the fact my kids had always lived with me, always, from day one, they lived here. So yes, I took them to doctors. In fact, by the time I took her to court, that whole year prior, if you ask the doctor, because they had gotten a new doctor about 2 years before court, and most of that time I was the one taking them. So when they interviewed the doctor, she was like, I don't know who the mother is, because other than the first visit or so, she decided that she was too busy and too enamored and wrapped up in the whatever lifestyle she was leading to have time for her own kids. So she wasn't taking them to the doctor. She wasn't taking them back and forth to school. I was. So it became an issue that she was neglecting them. And if you're not going to do all that, and I've got to do it anyway. In fact, it was a point where I had to hire a nanny. I'll tell y'all the entire story in the timeline, or you may have to read it in my book. But there was a point where I had to hire a nanny for about 5 months. I had 2, so probably over the course of 6 months, just so I could go to work at night. Because she just dropped them off one day and said, here, you take them. I'm tired of them. You need to know what it's like to have to be the custodial parent. And well, I need my money back. Okay. This right here is evidence. Because now I have witnesses that can be called or can be interviewed in an official court investigation that, can tell how she acted toward me, and the fact that I had to have these people come in my home to help me take care of my little kids, because they were pretty small at that point, 2 and 3, I think. 1.5, and 3. So, they had to help me with them. And so I could go to work. Somebody had to be here at night. Meanwhile, she had somewhere to stay separate from here at that point. She had moved out into her some sort of public housing because she put a fake, some sort of fake case on me and got a place to stay in a shelter type environment. And they put her in an apartment for about a year that she couldn't keep because she couldn't keep a job. So, but during that time, she also didn't want to keep her kids, which is a stipulation. It's not just for you, it's for you and the kids. And she sent the kids back over to me trying to be slick. So that was fraud. Didn't look too well in court either. So all played out. She thought she could do whatever, whenever. And that goes to my point. These women have to be held accountable because they do a lot. They do a lot of abusive actions toward men, and they never have to be held accountable. And they know they can get away with a lot. So just do whatever. I'm the woman. I have custody. You sit back and do whatever. And most men can't afford to get a lawyer because most of these actions that they do, you can nip in the bud legally. Like we weren't married, but I still was able to take her to court, and the court proceeding that we were going to use was I'm going to custody my kids. Originally, I only wanted 50%. To 50%, it'll cut my child support in half. Because actually, if I just get into court and prove that you're living with me, the child support will go to zero as long as you're living with me. But of course, her biggest issue from the moment she moved in was to get out on her own so she could get more child support. I was really only paying $600 for one. So you know how much I would have been paying had she got her way and proved that she was living somewhere else, but she could never move out and really keep the kids. She always had to drop the kids off with me. So it was still net negative result when it came to who really is keeping the kids majority of the time. And that was me. So at any rate, long story short, I have my kids. I have a lot of information for you guys on how to be prepared to take custody of your kids, or at least get 50% or a high degree of custody. You have the right, and they can't stop you. You get put on child support, you go immediately to custody and visitation court and claim your rights. Because if you don't claim it, it's a huge uphill battle. I had to go out of county 4 hours away 3 times to start this up as soon as I was put on child support 4 years or 5 years prior to winning custody. How long it took. Because they're not going to give it because you're walking in there. A big mistake most men make. And they know you're coming in there because you want to stop child support. Ultimately, that's a big factor in most men because it plays a big factor in men's lives on even being able to have the financial means to even visit them on every other weekend. Because a lot of times you have to work, and most jobs aren't sympathetic to a man's need to be off on the weekend that most middle lower class men work. So at the end of the day, it's hard to pay the level of child support, which is 30% of your income before taxes, and have the amount of money to be able to provide for them and have place, access, transportation, everything, food and clothing and shelter for a week, every other weekend, when you don't have that off. And that could either going to hurt your income or hurt your ability to make income in total. Have a job, being able to have that, but still your right to claim them as often as possible and to take care of them and prove to the court that you can, you're able and capable and willing to do it. Not just for the benefit of stopping child support, but because you want your children. You almost keep that in mind. You're not there. You're there for the best interest of your child, to provide that father figure as often as possible. And the courts are starting to weigh this thing more in balancement, because they're realizing that these men have been absent from these children's lives, and men are ready, willing, and able to step up to the plate to the 50% mark. You can move toward getting your child 50% because they don't have enough men willing to take on that responsibility. And I have full and total, which required some manipulation of my job. Um, During coronavirus, I got them the week coronavirus hit in March, around March 20th of 2020, when I got my kids. 2 days later, they shut all the schools down worldwide, and my kids were here, and I was having to deal with them being here and still go to work out the blue when everybody was quarantined. So I didn't have people helping to watch them. It was just a mess. But I was able to find some sitters and pay them quite a bit of money out the blue because I was essential worker and I kept working. So it wasn't too bad at the end of the day. Made it happen. Then the governor, the state started paying for daycare, which made it lovely because then I could put them in daycare, at night daycare, where I went to work and go pick them up and be here all day and then drop them back off right before I went to work. Everything was for free. Even though I was still paying out child support, it was going to the state, but for a year, which hurt me because I had 2 kids and was $600 short in my income, but I was always $600 short. She never paid any bill in this house. She always paid her private bills and with my money, and she wouldn't help me pay anything. If the electric got behind, she wasn't helping with my own money. So, you know, it was way better once that money started coming back to me. Yeah. But, you know, from time to time, I say maybe I need to get some child support just to help with showing my income, the debt ratio. So a little bit more steady income coming in, even if she probably couldn't pay it. But at the end of the day, hey, I'm not pressed. This has been a live chat, a live stream, and we will do future versions of this live stream. And we'll go from there. I hope you find this video entertaining. Hope you find it at all, because the information that I have to share will help a lot of men, possibly before you even have kids. Something to think about. You need to watch my video. You need to watch some of the Redpill and the Manosphere videos out there. PGS, Ed Moore, Kevin Samuels, to better understand the modern woman and some of the trials that you'll be up against. I even like Tariq Nasheed. That was entry level information because he wrote The Art of Macking and some of the pimp information. Truly. To get you on your manhood, to reinforce things that you should have been taught, would have been taught coming along. So I was in the military, so I learned a lot of things. Some things I probably forgot. Being around an abusive woman who has some literal mental issues from things that happen in her life will drag you down. Being around any person that has some literal mental issues and compulsive, obsessive, narcissistic tendencies will bring you down, because you don't have those tendencies, but they do. So they're never wrong. They're always right, even when they're dead wrong. And they're They're strong. They have to be right. They're forcibly right. And then when you have the legal system weighted toward them when it comes to like a domestic violence accusation, they know they have the game tied up. But also have hints and strategies on any potential domestic violence police call, how to act. Never be violent, never be caught up, never be guilty of putting your hands on someone or anything that can be investigated by police. Obvious house torn up from throwing things around the house, any kind of damage toward the skin or bruising of a female at your hands that can be proven uh, prior to the phone call that she'll make on you. That will get you sent up the river. And of course, if the phone call is made and the police are on their way, you must clean up. Uh, you must compose yourself if you were arguing, yelling, frantic, irrational, irate. You have to compose yourself. Because from my experience, if you're in just an argument, I've only just been in arguments with females from time to time. By being in a relationship, we have an argument, a big blowout argument. But at the end of the day, I'm never violent. So even though it's an argument, I'm in control because normally I didn't start it. And that's the problem with Kevin Samuels was talking about on one of the shows, that a lot of these women are argumentative and they push your buttons and they push and push and push until you go off the rails. So if they feel like they need to call, they've got you to the point where they can call the police going to show up and you're knocking down walls, mad as hell, irate. Even if you didn't do anything, they can't prove you really did anything. They're going to take you to jail because you look threatening. You are so angry, you can't even talk straight to them. Yeah, you might be dangerous to her. So they're going to take you downtown. So always, because she's going to disarm once she's called the police, because she's like, yeah, I got him now. Yeah, so she's going to be, and a lot of times they don't chill. In fact, they amp up because so they can be a lot more animated and convincing to the police. But they back off you and they're ready to stand off to the side and make their case, generally. So then that's your time to bounce, go to the bathroom, compose yourself, chill out, take a breath, meditate, woosah, and say, when these guys come in, officer, I have no idea why she called you. Do I seem like I've been even yelling, arguing, violent, having any kind of ill mood, or this? I'm not even in the bad mood. I don't know why. She was over there acting a fool. This is the code. This is the way you handle this. Respectful, calm, cool, and collected. I don't care how mad. I don't care what she was doing. You have to be the calm, cool, and collected. Clean up, where it doesn't look like you could have fought her or would have been able to, didn't even have the strength to do. Just lay back calm like a dish rag. Just chilled out when they arrive. That way, they'll look at her as being the aggressor that she is, especially if she deserves it. And they probably won't take her to jail, but at least you'll have something notated on the record about how the incident played out. Even if she did call them, she's going to be irate, all emotional, all acting crazy, trying to get you in trouble. But you have to be the chill one. Officer, I don't know what she's talking about. Look at this, you have to take some acting class. You have to, get into character. Saved me several times some crazy daisy females feeling like they need to play the victim and call some police. But anyway, you know, I'm not that guy. I'm not that type of person. So it that pissed me off to even have you think that you could call the police and ruin my reputation. Pisses me off more than anything we could have ever been arguing about. They just said no. But at any rate, because that's dangerous, especially to a black man, to call the police for anything. Because typically we don't deserve it. But the world doesn't know that, because of all people, our own females are the ones that typically throw us under the bus as much as any other race of people have. Lately, anyway, it hasn't always been that way. It's a daggum shame that it tends to be that way in a lot of cases now. But at any rate, I enjoyed talking with you and coming out with episode 1 of the Live to Swag Black Fathers channel. And stay tuned. We'll be back. Be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. We will have a lot more content. My channel's been up a while. I haven't added but one little video, and that was back. The original video had to do with e-commerce, things I was selling. But for now, stay cool, stay up, and we'll see you again.